A girl with a sniper rifle aims at a crowd of people. Her target, Leonard Vandersteen, 35 years old, a member of the Joint Council, who has full citizenship. One shot, and here is a man in a tailcoat lying in a pool of his own blood, which flows out of his head. There is a faint smirk on the man's lips. This act, which was supposed to strengthen control over the government, instead eventually led it to utter collapse. From this ashes of the old world, a new, happy state will rise. Two people in tight black suits are pushing through the crowd to make their way to the lying Leo. The man identifies these people as Brutus and Maria. Brutus asks the woman to call for help, but it's getting too late. Leo feels relieved that he will die in the arms of those he loves. Leo closes his eyes, feeling a tear roll down his cheek. He will no longer be able to fulfill this promise. He won't be able to see how their rotten world will change. Creatures who, instead of trying to solve the world's problems, made empty promises and stole from those who believed in them. These people infiltrated their system into schools to pollute the minds of other people. They were taught that these vile oppressors were representatives, protectors, virtues, and saviors. They profited from someone else's grief. They didn't care about others. Leo himself would not have believed that such monsters in human form exist if he had not seen closed bakeries, dirty, long-neglected parks, boarded up and never reopened shops, crowded with hungry and destitute children of orphanages. These scammers wove such a strong web that it seemed that nothing could ever break through it to see the light and the good life again. Leo didn't understand why he had to help those who hurt others. Why should we work for them, pay them and thank them for such a pig's life, which you wouldn't wish on an enemy? The spiked web was choking Leo. Years passed, he worked hard and studied, learned to lie through his teeth, no matter how unpleasant it was for him. To defeat the monsters, he became like them, became one of them. However, instead of being like these people, Leo swore to protect the weak by devouring predators who, despite all their troubles, killed. The man, already as an adult, broke this web. Brutus and Maria were the first to follow him, and over time there were more followers. They grew and grew as Leo proved himself to be a charming speaker. They tried to lure Leo into their greedy ranks, but he refused to obey. By the time the opponents realized what a monster he was, it was already too late to try to stop him. The web was broken, and people finally understood everything that was going on. As a last resort, which showed that Leo had won over them, the tyrants set an assassin on him to destroy their indomitable enemy. They managed to carry out their plans. Leo feels the life slipping out of his body. On his last breath, he does good to his friends and no longer wakes up. Through a dense black veil, Leo hears someone's voice calling someone by the name of Herm. What a terrible noise around. With difficulty opening his eyes, Leo sees a child's face with large amber eyes in front of him. But the creature did not look like a human child. The skin was gray, the hair was white as snow, and the ears were pointed at the ends. The creature asks if he's okay, but Leo doesn't answer. A minute of silence passes before the man suddenly starts screaming. The girl displeased hits him on the head, threatening that if he even screams again, she will hit him harder. Leo, surprising himself, humbly tells his sister that it won't happen again. He examines his body and realizes that it is not his at all. Who is Leo now? Where is it located? And why did the man call this girl sister? Meanwhile, she sits down next to him and excitedly asks what is happening to him. Her brother scares her very much. Should she call a doctor? Something becomes clear for Leo. He is her older brother, Herm, and the girl's name is Gorza. Are they scarecrows? Goblinoids. Scarecrows, as Leo knows, are the weakest race. Even goblins have the right to command them. Scarecrows are smart, but this is not very important in this new world for humans. According to Herm, caught in the middle of the war between the goblins of Jira and the kobolds of Kira, they were enslaved first and forced to work hard in the mines, where no one treats them with leniency. Now the Herma tribe is risking their lives for pennies in magical caves, known for the fact that monsters, magical foods and treasures created in the era of the gods live inside. Herm and Gorza are gray, born, a kind of scarecrow with great magical talent. Despite the fact that this species was respected in the past for its strength, now they are the ones who tried to rule other scarecrows thanks to their powers. Having failed the coup, they were strictly forbidden to use magic, and their skill eventually disappeared. Right now they are as low as possible. Garbage among even more garbage. Raising his hand in the air, Leo thinks that everything that is happening is some kind of a nightmare. This world, this environment cannot exist. Gorza decides that it would be better for her brother to call a doctor after all. But Leo stops her, saying he's fine. It would be so disrespectful of them to bother someone about such a real pussy. The girl still asks not to scream like that ever again. She starts to panic. Now let them get up. They've both been in this place for too long. Leo, however, does not understand where they are in such a hurry. The younger sister pushes him in the back, explaining that he was almost dead when the tunnel collapsed. Thanks to Vi, they had enough merit to save Herm in the first place. Merit, the system invented by the overseers to keep the Greyborn under control, is called merit for work. Even if the Greyborn earns enough merit, he is able to buy only the basic things of worse quality than those who are higher. The slops they feed on cannot even be reproached, and the clothes worn by the tribes are all torn and in any other case would no longer be suitable for life. But in their situation there is no choice. Leo was very much mistaken. This is not a nightmare. He died and went to fucking hell. When Gorza is already standing at the exit, she turns to her brother and hurries him. However, the elder is focused on waking up. Open your eyes and realize that in fact, it was all a dream. He wants this world of corruption, poverty, misery, and hunger, which he fought all his past life, to disappear. On the count of 3, Leo opens his eyes, but his younger sister is still standing in front of him in bewilderment. Herm falls to his knees. All that is happening is reality. Gorza runs up and gently pats his brother on the head, asking why he is crying. Leo roughly beat off her pen, ordering her not to touch him. He immediately apologizes to her and tries to justify himself. His babble is interrupted by a green goblin with a thick beard who enters, who is interested in whether these brats are still here. Gorza gets scared when he appears. The goblin discontentedly asks if the scoundrels have calmed down. Gorza recognizes in this creature the healer Rog. Goblin starts swearing. Do these brats think that his hospital is an inn? In that case, he should serve them accordingly. He rudely asks how much money the kid has. The girl tries to explain the situation, but Herm stretches out his hand in front of her to block her. He puts his hand to his heart and says with reverence that they were waiting for Rog to express their gratitude, because without his great skill, Herm would have died. Words cannot convey how happy he is that a healer applies his knowledge to such a non-entity like him, who is unworthy of the hand of a great master. The goblin first falls silent, and then smiles contentedly so that his fangs become visible. It is clear that the fallen stones have set the guy's brains well. Leo confirms his words, and then holds out his palm to his sister to give what they had in gratitude for Rog. The doctor grumbles that this is barely enough to pay for his services, but immediately orders them to get out. He has more important things to do. Finally, the goblin tells them to come only when there is money, and the rest of the time. A big request is not to waste his precious time. Herm bows, and Gorza repeats after the elder. When they are alone, she asks him what kind of performance it was. Leo pretends not to understand what she is talking about, and the girl immediately rudely points out that he kissed the old wrinkled ass of the healer harder than the priestess of Manga. Herm replies that if he hadn't done that, the old man would have taken everything, and Gorza wanted to eat this week. But the sister does not let up. The brother has never been so down. Not wanting to tell her in more detail, he only says that the stones, most likely, really set his brain right. It's like a completely different person is standing in front of Gorza. They are hailed by a girl who, apparently, has been looking for a couple for a long time. Herm asks why she is not at work at such a time. She was sent to them by Cool, who asked to warn them that Jurg and his friends were looking for Herm. Gorza, frightened, asks why they need her older brother. It's not the girl who answers her, but Leo. He makes a guess that Jurg's brother, Tog, caused the collapse, but blames him for everything, right? The girl angrily informs that this is the case. The guards threw Toga into the punishment cave, and he lied to Jurg that the collapse was caused by Herm. Gorza says with displeasure that it's not fair. Her relative himself almost died in this collapse. The friend waves and says that Herm is undoubtedly a corpse if Jurg is found by him. She needs to leave, so on such a cheerful note, the girl leaves her brother and sister. Gorza promises to pile on the idiot who dared to threaten her brother. Leo is thinking that if they get home, they will be safe, won't they? The girl confirms his thoughts. Their cave is located next to the guards, so they will not be reached there and will not create unnecessary trouble. Herm decides that they will have to shorten the way home today as much as possible, but it can be assumed that they will look for direct routes. Do they have another way to get home? Gorza upsets him. There are no other ways, but there are forbidden caves in which, according to the rules, no one is allowed to go there alone. But Leo won't be alone. His youngest is going with him. Also, when you're in trouble, it's always tedious to go down more interesting paths. That's what Leo's old teacher would have said. The girl asks which of his teachers would say that. Herm replies that it doesn't matter and tells her to show the way. As they walk through the forbidden cave, Leo asks why it is forbidden to be here. The answer is quite simple. Sometimes monsters from the lower levels come here, so you should be more careful. Grem stops and asks what kind of place it is, and the girl asks not to come close to the acid pits. One day Gorza came to the forbidden cave with a working group to throw out the garbage, and therefore knows much more than his brother. While Leo goes ahead, the girl suddenly stops and looks at the ceiling, where someone's corpse is hanging. With a trembling voice, she calls her brother and points to the find with a shaking finger. But, it turns out, although it really was a corpse, in fact it was in someone's mouth, namely a huge centipede, which definitely should not have such dimensions. Gorza covers his mouth with his hands so as not to scream and attract the monster's attention. She steps back and steps on someone else's bones. As soon as the guy looks away at his sister, the toothy mouth of the centipede turns out to be right in front of his face. Big tears are streaming down Gorza's face. Still trying not to scream in horror, Leo swallows hard, but the monster moves away from him. An unexpected guess comes to Herm's head. He is blind and seems to be trying to detect them by sound, or by smell. Putting his finger to his lips, the guy grabs the younger one by the shoulder, and they quietly leave. After walking a few meters, the brother and sister finally exhale. Leo only hopes that they have gone far enough so that the monster does not get them. Gorza is bent in half from such stress, a little more and they would have been caught. But it's good that everything worked out. The road they found themselves on is unlikely to lead them to the exit. Leo decides to follow the tracks they left earlier, as it is most likely a side tunnel. A sound makes Herm freeze. Gorza hurries towards the exit. There is someone else in the cave, so they should immediately warn the warders about the monster before the monster attacks them. The brother tries to stop the younger one, but she does not listen to him, and he bumps right into Jurg, with his friends standing behind him. Jurg wonders where Gorza's feeble brother is. He immediately appears behind her. Jurg's big sycophants grab Leo's armpit on his orders. Herm doesn't look depressed or scared. He says that if they kill him, they will be very sorry. And if they do not believe, then let them send one of their people deep into the cave and let it be quieter if he wants to stay alive. Jurg asks what this miserable dung worm is talking about. However, the youngest of the team turns to the boss, and he sends him to the cave, asking him to be quiet. Herm tries to say that he is not the reason for the appearance of the monster, but they are. But he is immediately mercilessly beaten in the face. The leader orders Leo to shut up, because he is alive only until his subordinate returns. He comes pretty soon and shouts that there is a centipede inside the cave, and they all need to get out of here urgently. Jurg's team starts to panic. They don't know what to do and how the monster got here. Someone says that it is necessary to inform the viewers about it. Herm suddenly declares that this is the best way to get rid of these creatures. Jurg pays attention to him and asks what he means. Leo explains that what he means is that what's the point of letting someone else take payment for killing this monster? How much last time the Watchers paid the team that killed such a monster? Crook, to whom Leo addressed, recalls that the heavenly servant was awarded 2,000 for his noble deeds. Jurg easily understands what this worthless one is trying to convey to him. Such monsters are a gold mine for them. Does the team really want to miss out on 2,000 gold? Herm speaks as if he has a plan, so the leader is ready to listen, since he has some kind of proposal for him. The guy tells the boss that it's worth taking a closer look. These centipedes are blind. They primarily focus on sound. It is also impossible to believe the monster's thick armor with scarecrow weapons. Gorza brings the result. They can only lure her to the pit with acid and try to break through the armor of the centipede. However, these monsters are still many times faster than them all, so if they try to escape, she will quickly catch them. The plan is not to run away from her, but to place yourself along the tunnel and take turns throwing dice to attract attention. In this case, the centipede will follow the sound until it falls into the pit. It all sounds extremely simple, though dangerous. However, Jurg says that someone will have to lure her into the pit anyway and assigns this job to Herm. It is he who is destined to become the last key link. Gorza closes her brother. He is wounded and will not be able to escape from her. Herm is not going to give up so easily, interrupts his sister and says that everything will be fine. He will cope. Jurg, with a sweet smile, asks Herm to help him close the door when he returns. He resolutely replies that you can rely on him, let him not doubt. When the group of Jurga leaves, Gorza looks at his brother and cannot believe that he will really go. The leader will kill him, and his conscience will not torture him for sure. However, Leo calms the younger one, saying that even though Jurg will try, but he has ideas, she just needs to run if things go really bad. But how will the girl understand that things are going badly? Leo replies that he will scream with all his might. Let him listen carefully. Herm announces an action plan. When the monster gets close, Sav has to roll the dice in front of him so that the centipede goes to the sound. He will drag him into the tunnel and then throw the ball. Sav is outraged that this role fell to him, but he is immediately asked to shut up. He is always bragging that he is very fast, so let him prove it now. After Junior rolls the dice, he must run to the glowing moss. The monster is blind, so it won't see him. As soon as the centipede leaves, Sav stays in place until he hears the command OK. Sav asks not to worry. When he is in place, he will act according to plan. The guys should stand under or next to the moss so that they can watch her, but do not make noise, and it is better not to move at all. Jurg will be standing right next to the crystal at the turn. They will take the centipede to the acid pits, then lure it inside. Jurg will help Herm lock up the monster there. The leader rubs his chin. It doesn't look like this plan was invented by an idiot like Herm. Leo simply replies that Jurg needs to make sure that he is close enough to back him up. Sav comes to his place and notices the centipede. She clicks her teeth and crawls towards the hidden scarecrow. Sav runs away from her as fast as he can, attracting all the monster's attention to himself. He's absolutely terrified. Then he runs up to a handful of bones and stretches out his hand, praying that Einschart will help him. The guy grabs the skull and throws it aside. He covers his head with his hands, fearing that he is about to become dinner for the centipede. But nothing happens. When Sav timidly opens one eye, he sees that although she is still here, she is in no hurry to eat him. The monster rises, it seems, trying to find the source of the sound, and then she crawls away, leaving Sava out of the danger zone, which cannot but please him. After a while, it's Jurg's turn. He feels that she is coming, and as far as he believes, the centipede has already passed Gorza and has just left his henchman Hork. He waves to Herm to let him know just in case, because after all, it belongs to him to fulfill the most important part of the plan. Jurg realizes that he is waving goodbye to Tom. Because of this brat, his brother is being held at gunpoint by the guards. He thinks with satisfaction that his little sister is very sorry, but Jurg and his guys will do everything to comfort her later. The leader does his part, knocks a bone on the stone floor of the cave, and even though he was ready for the monster to appear, he is still scared when a huge hungry mouth appears around the corner. Jurg quickly pulls himself together, does not let fear take over, so that he remains a confident asshole until the very end. The monster crawls past him, and he is ready for the fact that as soon as he gets into the acid pits, he immediately locks the door, killing the centipede and Herm. However, everything does not go as he planned in his stupid head. She suddenly stops and turns around, as if looking directly at Jurg. If she had eyes. She clacks her teeth. Herm screams for the leader to run faster to lure her into the pits. Jurg runs away from her, being confused by the fact that for some reason she does not follow the sound, but stubbornly follows his carcass. Leo points out where to lure her. When Jurg is inside, he locks the door and puts his palm against it. This idiot should have thought out the plan more carefully if he didn't want to be in this situation. The rest of the team and Gorza come running. The girl is happy that her brother and others ask where Jurg is. With a sad expression on his face that betrays Leo's excellent acting skills, he informs that unfortunately, the monster followed their leader because Jurg was making too much noise. He lies that they lured the centipede into the pit together, but the boss was caught, so they had to lock them inside. Herm says that he is not asking for a reward for the murder. They can say that it was Jurg who killed him, because this is the best thing a guy can do to honor his memory. God will surely appreciate his bravery and nobility. The team lets him go in peace, promising that they will never forget it. They also bless him. Gorza leaves with uncertainty, constantly looking back at the people of Jurg. When she gets far enough away, she asks what really happened. Is it true that he sacrificed himself for them? Herm admits that Jurg was helped a little, but who knew that the centipede also tracks odors? Gorza agrees that this dishonest man got what he deserved. Gorza persuades his brother to eat a strange kind of food that does not resemble at all what is eaten in Leo's world. Jur tries to say that he's not hungry, but the younger one reminds him that this is his favorite food, isn't it? So why doesn't he want to eat it? She even saved a head especially for him. The information that it was someone's head did not inspire Herm at all to eat something green. The sister pins her head on a knife and orders her to eat in a stern voice. Leo hesitantly takes the cutlery along with the impaled food, unable to resist the younger one. He slowly puts in his mouth what in this world is called food and begins to chew. The veins at his eyes swell, and tears come to his eyes. It seems that the guy is about to die for the second time. Herm spits out everything he eats. Wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, he turns to his sister to explain everything. But Gorza points a knife at him and declares that it's all because of that incident in the acid pit. She knows that the person standing in front of her is not her older and beloved brother Herm at all, but someone else posing as him. The girl calls him a demon. Leo asks to put down the knife, because he is not some kind of demon that should be killed. But Gorza comes closer and pokes the sharp side right into the imposter's long nose, asking about it. How he did it. Herm stutters at first, and then an idea quickly comes to his head about how to convincingly lie to the youngest, Maron powder. Leo explains that he will mix the Maron powder, which they received last year at a sacred ceremony, with water and drink this mixture. Maron's powder is known for exorcising demons, so since Gorza doesn't believe him, he will surely believe this remedy. If the guy's body starts to burn, then she got a slightly burned brother back. If nothing happens, then Gorza will get proof that Herm is really in front of her. The girl has some doubts about this method. Leo takes a box with a round lid from the shelf and starts cooking. Herm says Gorza should believe him after he drinks it. He's really not a demon at all. The younger one still holds her nose to her face and asks to hurry up, less words, more business. When Herm swallows water mixed with powder, he sincerely hopes that all this is just fiction about the fact that the powder exorcises demons and spirits. If not, then maybe Leo will return to where he really belongs, because it's definitely not in this world. Gorza does not take his eyes off the imposter. Suddenly, the world becomes fuzzy for Grem. The sister starts to worry. It really was a demon, it turns out. Leo falls to his knees, but he doesn't faint and doesn't look like he's going to catch fire. He just sticks his tongue out of his mouth, complaining about the disgusting taste of this thing. The sister turns out to be angry at such a prank, because she thoroughly hits him in the face with her small, but strong, fist. She shouts loudly that her older brother is still an idiot. When Herm gets to his feet, there is a big bruise on his cheek, and a thin trickle of blood flows from the corner of his lips. He notices that Gorza calls him by his brother's name, which means, apparently, he believes him. The younger one confirms that he is indeed her relative. Leo covers his eyes by putting his palms in front of his face and, in a humorous manner, calls himself a Tanak, a dreamer of worlds. Gorza laughs. Of all the gods, he chose the laziest. Her brother smiles back at her. What can he say? Herm also likes to be lazy. The girl is finally convinced that this is the Herm she has known all her life, but she can't help but ask why he is behaving like this. Since he recovered, Herm seemed to have become a different person. She sincerely asks to tell her this time the real reason for such unnatural behavior for the elder. Leo remembers that the guy's father once told about something like this. Perhaps such a fable for Gorz is the best option. What else can he do to learn more about what happened? He sits down at a battered wooden table and brushes his hair off his face, awkwardly admitting that he has memories from his past life. To be honest, he has no idea how his soul was transferred into Herm's body. Leo felt that he was in the void, and then his body was carried away like a stormy river, after which he suddenly found himself moving towards a ball of light. After colliding with this ball, Leo woke up with a headache and a lot of other people's memories that definitely could not belong to him. Leo says that's honestly all he knows. Gorza doesn't look scared. On the contrary, she enthusiastically slaps the table and asks if he understands what all this means. Since ancient times, the gods and many of their wards have been reborn into the bodies of mere mortals. They have powers beyond imagination, from superhuman strength and charisma to the ability to change reality itself. Herm points a finger at himself and asks doubtfully if his sister really thinks that he is some kind of chosen one. Gorza herself is not particularly sure. A lot of water has flowed away with the time of the last chosen one. Maybe Herm has some special powers. She begins to list the options: the speed exceeding the flight of the released arrow, the strength that is greater than the traction of a herd of horses, or suddenly he can jump over the ditches without anyone's support, alone. Leo thinks about it. Gorza looks hopefully at the elder, but he immediately replies that he did not observe anything like that. In that case, maybe Leo was just lucky, and he turned out to be a lost soul. Lost souls are people who were born with past memories, but without any superpowered abilities. Few of them manage to achieve fame, except for those who inherited the memory of great leaders or legendary masters. Herm concludes that he really is a lost soul. Leo apologizes for disappointing his sister, but Gorza, although she looks upset, says that, on the contrary, it's good, they don't need such a second one. She strongly asks not to tell anyone about this, because if others find out that not only his soul is hidden in Herm's body, they will most likely think that he knows about the existence of any treasure, and in this case you can imagine with pain what they will do to him. Leo voices it out loud. He would have been tortured, killed, or experimented on, most likely. Gorza covers his ears and asks him to stop talking about this. If my brother reveals any abilities, then let him not even think about telling anyone about them. This is fraught with serious consequences. Herm wasn't going to do it, because he likes it when all his fingers and toes are in place. Gorza can't imagine what they will do if someone sees these non-existent abilities, but Leo, taught by the sad experience of his past life, knows perfectly well what he would do in such a case. Just strangle this person and be done with it. He says out loud that he himself has no idea what to do in such a situation. He admits that that's why he didn't admit to the younger one right away. He didn't want to make her worry even more. Gorza asks whose memories Herm got, because he doesn't really look like a noble person, if you don't take into account the condescending attitude. Leo easily admits that he has never been a noble or kind person. The memories that he has now are from another life, from another, completely different society. Leo was a rebel, those who sought to make their society better, to pull out of the mud in which it was. Gorza cautiously asks what has become of him. Leo replies that he made an irreparable mistake. He was killed by nobles with whom he had been on opposite sides of the barricades all his life. The girl doesn't say anything to this remark, but she immediately wonders if this fool is going to do something against the blouse. Grem mockingly asks about the fact that, in her opinion, is he really so stupid? Gorza responds with an unambiguous look, and the elder decides to omit this topic. After all, Leo is not a warrior with weapons and armor. He does not have warriors or magicians under his command. He doesn't think he'll be able to overthrow anyone anytime soon. The younger one is surprised to ask who the magicians are. In this world, magicians are something like shamans, but more methodical, as Leo explains. It's less about spirits, more about magical energy. Gorza grins. The elder speaks as if he knows about magic. Herm definitely doesn't have to use magic, right? But he certainly doesn't look like a person who uses magic. Gorza confirms that this is true. La asks the younger to stop jumping to conclusions. If the guy really had magic, wouldn't Gorza have felt it? That's why they keep scarecrows around. Gods can sense magic because of their sad bloodline. Their tribes are useful and easily expended. Gorza confirms his words. Suddenly the girl turns gloomy and asks to promise him something. She sincerely asks him not to change anymore. Apparently, it was really difficult for her to come to terms with the idea that her beloved brother was no longer in her own body. Leo holds out a thin hand, asking her to come to him, and then hugs the younger one tightly. The guy swears that no matter what happens in the future, he will always remain her brother, and she will always be his sister. A bright, blinding sun shines through the window. Leo opens his eyes slightly, immediately covering the bright light with his palm. There is a tight bandage on his forehead, and his chest is tied with bandages. Brutus and Maria are standing over him. The man asks not to move him too much, and the woman covers her mouth with her hand, trying not to cry, but she does not succeed. Brutus reports that Leo was wounded in the chest and is still in critical condition. The patient looks at them and is surprised to recognize his friend. When Brutus confirms that it's really him, the one and only, Leo closes his eyes. Was that world a dream? Maria asks with interest what he dreamed. He doesn't laugh nervously. She definitely wouldn't believe him. Leo says that it was absolute nonsense about the afterlife, in which he became a slave who was at the very bottom of society. He wasn't even human. How can you even believe it? Maria and Brutus look at each other. It sounds really unusual. Leo asks for help to get out of bed to get back in line as soon as possible, and stretches out his hands to him. But suddenly, instead of human hands, he sees Herm's clawed gray paws in front of him. He is not even particularly surprised. He just finds himself in complete disappointment. Everything turned out not to be a dream, right? Friends stand and look at him with shock. Leo apologizes to them, because there's nothing he can do. The man admits that he misses his old friends a lot. Maria replies that they also yearn for him and wishes at least to try to find happiness for him in his new afterlife. Does he promise her? The blue-eyed man nods. Of course he promises. They don't have to worry about him anymore. Maria and Brutus in one voice tell him to change this world for the better, just as he did with theirs. Leo says that these two know better than him. After him, this world will no longer remain the same. Brutus, stretching out his hand to the side, promises to return to his life again, and until then Leo's company will be Herm, who suddenly finds himself sitting on a chair by the bed. Leo asks with displeasure why this scarecrow is sitting here. Could someone less annoying be with him? Herm walks right up to him. There is also a bandage on his head. He mockingly says that he is still offended. Leo doesn't take his offense seriously. After all, since Herm is here, he's not so offended. The man apologizes to him. There should be only one commander in the squad, and the head of the two is definitely not Herm. He'll have to get some sleep. He indignantly reminds that it is his body after all. This does not sound to Leo like an argument to give control of consciousness to Herm. In the end, the man is going to take care of him, since both are well aware that the young guy will not be able to change his life. But Leo, taught by a cruel life in which he did not write the rules, can. Herm hesitantly admits that this is the truth. Leo stretches out his hand and puts it on his shoulder, consoling with the fact that Herma will be filled for a long time. The guy asks for one favor for him, to tell the whole truth to his younger sister so as not to hurt her. Although Leo has never had a sister, he will take care of her as his own and protect her at the cost of his life. Not only will he do this, but he will also change the world of Gorza and Herm for the better for both of them. The guy smiles confidently, showing small fangs. He is confident in Leo. Let him walk with his head held high. Gorza and Herm pull back the curtain that hides their cave and look at the sun rising behind the mountain. The girl mockingly elbows him and says she can't believe he woke up earlier than she did. So I also cleaned up and cooked breakfast. In her previous